FM in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and on over 30 affiliates across the country. Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. And coming up tonight, former ECG boss Mahama justifies ECG's under-declaration of revenue and the company's operation of over 80 collection accounts. Of the PwC's latest audit report of the ECG, which reveals over 56 billion Ghana's debt as the company's revenue loss rises to 10 billion US dollars.
Also coming up tonight, mixed reactions greet President John Dramani Mahama's second batch of ministerial nominations as industry players outline raft of demands various ministers must roll out to tackle teething challenges facing various sectors they're going to head. We'll be live in the constituencies of some of these nominees shortly. Also coming up, food crisis on the various campuses continues to bite hard as emergency food supplies dispatched to senior high schools are yet to arrive. We'll bring you details as Charles says students are struggling to fend for themselves.
And also in the bulletin, Ghana's most authoritative scale that celebrates people impacting lives positive. Joy 99.7 FM and Joy News Impact Makers opens 2025 nominations.
And in business,
we'll be exploring the challenges that lie ahead for the trade and agribusiness industry, as well as the Agric Ministry in business in 30 minutes.
And in sports, we hear from Black Stars forward Joseph Pinto on his music career alongside his football journey.
My name is Faustina Asaf and I'm doing this with
Kenneth Jesse. Details now. And immediate past managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Mahama, has justified the company's decision to consistently under-declare their total revenue generation to the cash waterfall mechanism. A latest audit report of the ECG's financial account for the last quarter of 2023 has revealed that the company has under-declared a total of 1.4 billion Ghana cedis in terms of revenue.
Well, another revelation apart from the report is that the ECG is currently operating 86 different collection accounts, contrary to the IMF conditionalities. You also recall that the operation of these multiple accounts took center stage in one of the PRC reports, with the regulator insisting that these accounts must be closed to help monitor the revenue generation of ECG. But the immediate past managing director of ECG, Samuel Mahama, has already been reacting to the findings of this report on the polls earlier, insisting that there was no foul play operating over 80 collection account and also under declaring revenue. Let's listen.
What I would say to that is that number is even small. We are doing our best to bring it down. You cannot have a digital payment platform and let me make it practical enough. Let me make it very practical. If you're collecting money in Asankragua, do you have to use a bank account in Accra to collect the money in Asankragua? You can't. If you're collecting money in Seshuyu also, do you have to use an account in Accra to collect money in Seshuyu also? You can't. So if ECG has accounts in areas, they all collect, but they are all swept into a single collection account. And let me make that clear. ECG does have one single collection. Maybe we should call it one single settlement account. As for the collection accounts, if you reduce them, you are going to make the work very difficult. There are accounts that will collect. And thanks to the GIBS platform, thanks to the RTGS platform of Bank of Ghana, all those monies are swept into one single settlement account by the close of day. So please, let's verify that. And it's quite shocking that the report doesn't have that in there. That in as much as there are these accounts just collect the day-to-day, but within 24 hours, all of those monies are swept into the single collection account. So that one leaves that with that statement. But in truth, for ECG to run on a daily basis or on a monthly basis, ECG needs, last I checked, ECG needs almost 600 million Ghana cedis to run efficiently. If ECG is to comply by the cash waterfall directly, ECG will have financial constraints seriously. Let's not forget that when this proposal came for the single collection account, that everything should be moved in. ECG already had financial obligations to the banks. And let's also not forget that there's also a cost of collection. We need to look at this holistically than to just take a statement and say they underdeclared by 1.1. This same audit report came once at some point. It didn't have a management response when I was in office. It was sent back for them to redo it. Let's be honest. I want to be able to speak to a document that I understand properly. And I'm having major difficulty because if one of my biggest difficulties is this. If you say revenue has been underdeclared, you should be able to tell in an audit report where the revenue went. But if you leave it hanging, it was underdeclared, and that's it. What are you seeing? So that would just tell me that probably the whole TOR or the terms of reference was to say how much came in, how much did they give, how much did they keep. So if they kept it, why did they keep it? Everybody needs to know why the company kept it.
But Dubik, it looks as if the PwC and PRC are all singing from the same hymn book that you are under-declaring. So isn't this not something
nobody
new,
has
right?
said, I will say it, and I'll say it here. Under-declaration is not a criminal offense. Let's be clear.
So was ECG intentional?
Listen, let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. ECG in a month, salaries. Let's look at the salary bill of ECG. Let's look at how much money ECG needs to keep the lights on in your district where you live, with the maintenance that they have to do on the lines. Where is ECG supposed to get that money from? If ECG gives all the money it receives away.
But Dubik, you also will agree that under the cash waterfall mechanism, you are entitled to a component, right?
So if you take that component, if I listen to what you are saying in this strictest sense, then that means I'm waiting for a staff uprising, or I'm waiting for the company to collapse during my watch. Will that be fair? Would it be fair to you where the staff gets up and says they are not being paid,
but nothing also stops you from declaring the actual value to PRC.
But the point is this,
right?
Nobody said ECG never declared the actual value. But when you declare the value and you tell them what it has been used for, the question is, was it captured? Because I do remember in certain meetings, we telling the ECG management, exactly what has happened. We've produced letters to the effect that we had instructions to do A, B, C, and D. But the PURC would not accept it for what it's worth.
In fact, the report actually says that the revenues that you even reported under the cash waterfall mechanism, you did not pay all to the stakeholders, especially the level B category.
But I'm telling you that ECG cannot give everything away.
No, I'm saying that what you even declared to the cash waterfall mechanism, which you will agree with me that at that point you are actually taking out what you want to keep, right?
No. At that point, you see, it was even being done around the 22nd of every month.
So if what you declared under the cash waterfall mechanism is equal to what you actually get, well, then why are there discrepancies?
It can never be equal to.
Exactly my point. That's why my question was, even what you declare under the cash waterfall mechanism, the report says that you don't pay everything to the players.
And I told you that yes, it is true. Because as at the time you have declared, an instruction comes or you owe. So you've agreed that, okay, you've agreed that this month there's 900. Okay, you've told everybody there's 900. As at the time that you're about to pay the 900, you have to pay a fuel supplier. What do? You go ahead and pay the 900 and then the fuel stops and then the country is in darkness. You see, operationally, there are things that hit you left, right, center. And let's be practical. It's nobody's intention to deny industry players what is due them. That's the conversation that we are having right now. Yes, ECG underdeclared. But let's find out why ECG underdeclared. Because money is like that, you cannot just underdeclare for underdeclaration's sake.
So
that is what I'm trying to say.
So are you actually
in a nutshell, I'm admitting to you that yes, ECG underdeclared. And after ECG underdeclaring, I am telling to you that today, that ECG needs about 600 million Ghana cedis a month to run and to run efficiently. We are all complaining about ECG. Everybody wants a meter. Everybody wants service connection. Where is ECG going to get that money from? Because let's not forget, ECG cannot go to the banks and borrow without not going for under the PFM Act. You need to go and seek clearance. So basically, ECG is working from hand to mouth.
Right, so that's the immediate past boss of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Dubik Mahama, there defending the company's losses and why they had to create more than 80 bank accounts. And Fasina, you were part of that interview with
Dubik, and
yes.
he's actually mounting a strong defense. He admits that indeed they underdeclared their total revenue generated for the cash waterfall mechanism. He goes on to say it is not illegal to have underdeclared that, and it's quite subject of controversy on social media as to the legalities of that. But we've just been hearing from Dubik Mahama on the Pulse. He also defended the reason why the company decided to operate 84 different bank accounts. And we recall that PURC some time back raised concerns, and if my memory serves me right, as at that time it was over 60 bank accounts, and as at the time they completed this report, the PwC report, it was over 84.
Right. So it's that
accounts.
under declaration that has started raising concerns on social media, and you can join the conversation live by sending us a text on WhatsApp 055 1111997 on all social media handles. Also, you can start with the hashtag Newsnight.
Well, Ken, let me bring in Ishmael Ejikum. He is Executive Director for KITE. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. We've been hearing from Dubik Mahama mount a strong defense as to why exactly ECG under his leadership was under-declaring their revenue. Your reaction?
Well, good evening. They had no business under declaring because the money didn't belong. The fact that collecting monies belonging to people in the entire country. I mean, the tariffs that were approved by the PRC, the share of ECG, they knew. The reason why they ended up spending other people's money was that they weren't collecting. So, I mean, that is neither here nor there. All the defenses that is putting up anyway, I think it's not my place to be talking about that. But clearly, this has been going on for some time, and that's what to the introduction of the cash waterfall mechanism, whereby whatever money you collect, you prorate the payment, and everybody gets something to run. Yeah, but you can't satisfy yourself when everybody is struggling.
At this point,
by saying that he had about 600 million to run ECG, did he know how much, for example, you get before they will run? So you're not collecting enough. So the cash waterfall mechanism says that just give everybody, according to the formula, you collect 100, you pay IPs, you pay yourself, you give everybody so that everybody can run. I mean, the argument that is that anyway, that's
now,
if you say that under declaration is not an offense, as far as the regulator is concerned, the regulator who approves the money you collect, you can't lie to the regulator. So that's an offense of the regulator.
Now let's look at also ECG's defense as to why exactly they're operating over 80 bank accounts. As part of Ghana's IMF conditionality, which we signed on to, we're all supposed to operate a single bank account, and by all, I mean ECG. But then he's been providing some sort of defense to that, and he explained that when you're dealing with different individuals from different parts of the region, there's a need to operate different bank accounts. You agree?
So he then explained, and they should have told the World Bank that was feasible. Okay, you don't sign on to have a single account, and then it makes that you have several other accounts. Those meetings, those decisions that were taken, all the arrangements, all the conditionalities that were put in place, everybody knew about it. He knew about it. There were meetings. He could have told everybody that it's not feasible for you to have a single account. So I don't think that's defensible. But again, that's what he's saying. I leave it.
Right.
Whoever wants to take
Okay.
it.
Ishmael, the calls for the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana has resurfaced once again. Looking at all that is going on, do you think that call is justified, perhaps?
We've always known that ECG is the weakest in the entire value chain. There's been strong, everything's leaning towards that. But you see, it depends on exactly what we mean by private. There are services that private sector can provide, which is privatization, the whole continuum when you talk about privatization. Are we talking about selling the assets of ECG or like a concession, the one that we're trying to have with people? The assets, the wire business of ECG, I'm not too sure there are many people out there who will be able to pay for all the assets of ECG and say that we bought ECG and fully privatized. But there are different segments of ECG's operations that the private sector can. I think there has to be a conversation and to understand exactly what needs to be done as far as private sector participation is concerned. Already there are some private sector actors working there, but the exact form of their participation is still open for discussion and conversation. But clearly, there's a need for an improvement in efficiency and everything, revenue, the approach operation.
Okay. Ishmael Ajakum, he is the Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute for Technology, Energy and Environment. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, let me bring in now Dr. Nidako Asante, a former PURC board member. Thank you so much for your time here on Newsnight. As a board member, did some of the discrepancies come to your attention, and did you indeed crack the whip?
Good evening, and thanks for having me on your call. It did sort of, the suspicion of it did come up, but there is no direct whip that PRC could crack. If you recall, even after I'd left the board, PRC did try to sanction ECG for non-compliance with its instructions, and as you know, they simply took the case to court, and it sort of fizzled out. But yes, there was always suspicion that ECG was under-declaring its revenue.
And this suspicion is a crime, because under-declaration itself is a crime. And so we're just looking forward, what exactly can be done to ensure transparency with the management of ECG?
So this under-declaration wasn't to a statutory entity. It's not like under-declaring your revenue to GRA or under-declaring your revenue to any other statutory. This was more like an ad hoc program. The cash waterfall mechanism doesn't have any statutory obligations. ECG, when we set up the cash waterfall in 2020, agreed to do this on a voluntary basis. So there was no statutory obligation. In 2023, I believe, at the beginning of, or 2022, the ministry and even the presidency instructed them to comply with the cash waterfall instructions. So if there's anything, it's a defiance of the president, it's a defiance of the minister, and for such things, it's not a criminal offense, but normally you would lose your job as a result.
Now, let's look at the different bank accounts ECG operated. As at the last time PURC had concerns about their operations and the bank accounts they operated, it was over 60 bank accounts. Now we're seeing from this report that they operate over 80 bank accounts. As at that time, as a board member, what did you do to ensure that you were doing what the IMF conditionalities actually envisaged them to do?
So you have to understand, PURC does not supervise ECG. So the day-to-day operations of ECG are supervised by a board, and above the board, if you like, there's a minister. So PRC is not involved in that route. PRC is a regulator. It does not manage ECG. So if there's any non-compliance, it is the board, first of all, that should have acted. And if the board failed, the minister. And if the minister failed, then the president. PRC does not get into that loop. We look at their operations in terms of how they supply power.
But as a regulator, you raised concerns about this initially. And so we're looking at what can be done moving forward. Looking at ECG's operation, what do you propose can be done moving forward?
Well, a lot can be done. Like I said, there is somebody who supervises. There is a board. If the board fails, you get rid of them. If the board is not doing what they should do, you take action against the board. The assumption that essentially the regulator should do it is the only thing I push back against. But the point is that you appoint managers to manage. If they are not managing, you do something about it. If you have a business and you employ somebody to manage it and he's just wrecking your equipment, or you have a car and you give it to a taxi driver and he's messing it up, you don't just advise and preach to the taxi driver to do better. You take your car from him and you give it to another person. We know what we should do. This is a company like any other company. There are remedies for management that is not cooperating or operating efficiently. We've just not done it. And you need to ask why we choose to keep managers and boards that it would appear were not complying with the instructions. That's the issue. And it's not like we couldn't deal with it. We just chose not to.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nida Kwasanti, former PRC board member.
Right. Let's take you to the seat of government now, because President John Mahama's second batch of ministerial nominees have been welcomed with mixed reactions from constituents and industry players who are outlining a raft of demands various ministers must roll out to tackle teething challenges in the various sectors they are going to head. And according to the NDC manifesto outlined a set of policy directions, but must outline with prevailing conditions in the various sectors. We'll hear from them shortly, but first let's bring you the full list of ministerial appointments done by President Mahama today, and my colleague Samuel Kojo Brace joins me in studio. Kojo, let's start with the list today and what we know about them.
So we know that he made 3 regional ministerial appointments. Wilbert Petit Brentum is for Western North Region. Eduamwa Ekopein Ochre is for the Central Region, and Joseph Nelson is for the Western Region. Joseph Nelson is the NDC Regional Secretary of the Western Region currently. Now, for Ministers of State, we have Kwame Govins Agbaja to the Ministry of Roads and Highways, Eric Opoku to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Agnes Na Momo Latte, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Abla Jifa Gomashi is to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Art. Emilia Arthur is to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. George Opare Ado is to the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. And we also have Haruna Idrisu to the Ministry of Education, Ahmed Ibrahim, Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, and Elizabeth Ofosu Ejari, Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. Now, in terms of what we do know about them, we know that Eric Opoku is a seasoned politician. He has expertise in law, agriculture, and leadership, and he has over 12 years' experience in Parliament. He is a member of the Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee of Parliament. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Law from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and an LLM in International Business Law from the University of Essex, UK. He has also earned certifications in International Legislature Drafting and Fisheries Management from the United States. Now, if you look at Kwame Govins Agbaja, he's an architect, and he has experience in architectural design and project management.
Right.
He's a chartered architect, and his qualification from KNUST, Westminster University, and East London University. He is a principal consultant at K Plus Partners Limited. He has managed major projects in healthcare, education, and residential development across Ghana and the UK. And since 2013, he has been a member of Parliament for Adaklu. So that's a bit of what we know about him. We also have to add that he's a member of the Royal Institute of British British architect,
Right.
and the Ghana Institute of Architects. Right. And then you talk about trade. We have Elizabeth Ofoswejari. She's a lawyer, international relations expert, business executive, and she served in strategic level on several boards, driving performance in multi-million-dollar companies. We understand that she's been taken to the Minister of Tourism, Culture, and Creative Art. She led, when she was a minister there, she led initiatives to promote Ghana as a prime tourism destination and fostered collaborations with the creative art. Of course, you also have to talk about the big man.
Yes.
Haruna Idrisu is being taken to the Education Ministry. He's a lawyer. He's a business magnate. He's a leader with extensive experience in Ghana's parliament. As you know, he's been a minister for employment labor relations before. He's also been a minister for communications, and he holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Ghana, and also a barrister at law and member of the Ghana Bar Association since 2002. So that's what we do know about these people.
Indeed. Samuel Kojo Brace, thank you very much. But some players in the various sectors have started reacting to the nominations, and the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, believes Haruna Idrisu will do well at the Education Ministry. He, however, wants him to be an advocate of education to help him succeed.
It is partly because the then president, had education high on his agenda. And it is also because the then Minister of Education himself was an advocate for education. If you want to succeed in that seat, you yourself, you must be an advocate for education. You must make the strong case at cabinet for increased resourcing of education. And so the advocacy role of the minister, as you rightly said, is very, very fundamental in ensuring that you're able to lobby, you're able to mobilize, you're able to influence the allocation of resources in favor of education and in favor of executing the 140 plus promises that the NDC has made in their education manifesto. So advocacy capacity, advocacy and policy influencing, resources influencing is key to the success of the incoming Minister of Education. And I think that having been in Parliament for all this while, understanding the centrality and essence of advocacy and being an advocate himself for good governance and all that, one expects that he should use his experience in lobbying and influencing, gained over the years in Parliament, to influence and lobby for more resourcing of education policies, especially in an equitable manner, such that the most deprived districts and regions in education, talk about the 5 northern regions, Western North and ET, receive their fair share of the education community, especially in respect of education infrastructure, teachers, and teacher learning resources. So that
get more reactions and get on the telephone lines and speak to the deputy head of our political desk, Winston Amwa, for more on this. Winston, some are saying that the biggest surprise is Haruna Idrisu, who is headed for the education ministry. Prior to that, there were rumors that he was being earmarked for the defense ministry. Others also thought that he should have been sent to the labor relations and employment ministry, where he has been a substantive minister before. Let's talk about the politics surrounding these new nominations.
Well, good evening to everybody. Talking about Haruna Idrisu, I can understand all the politics about, where he should be. But this is a man who has been Minister of Communications. He's been Minister for Trades and Industry. You've talked about employment and labor relations. And now goes to the Education Ministry. Yes, we've seen President Mahama actually put Kasiel Atoforsen, who earlier was a deputy minister at the Ministry of Finance, now been elevated. Same with, John Jinapo and Dr. Ayine. But Haruna Idrisu is a problem solver. For many people who may not be aware, as Minister in charge of Employment and Labor Relations, he was one man who was able to deal with the regular labor agitations. I'm just thinking that, President Mahama is taking this decision when it comes to Haruna Idrisu, just to make sure that he's able to deal with the challenges in education. And so this is a sector that has had lots of challenges. You have had, a lot of the players within the sector threatening strikes here and there. With Haruna Idrisu, it is the belief that he will bring his problem-solving skills to deal with the numerous challenges and also deal with the problems associated with free senior high school education.
Right. Let's talk about the trade ministry. We are having a woman for the first time in a long time heading that ministry. Really, tell us more. What does Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare bring to the table?
Well, I mean, she's you've talked about how she's been tourism, arts, and culture minister before. And at the time she was the Minister of Tourism, Arts, and Culture. She had Jifra Ablagomashi as her deputy. With her expertise in law, you would expect Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare to be able to, promote Ghana's trade policy. And a lot of these policies would also depend on, your understanding of law as well. And so that's what she brings on board coming in. But let me just talk about another person, for instance, where to talk about, say, the Minister of Roads and Highways, Governor Kwame Agboja, who himself is an architect. He's been the ranking member of the committee for, some time now until he became the minister in charge, until he became the minority chief whip. Now, he's a man who knows the sector, and you can understand why he's going to that particular area. He knows the sector, but also the other politics behind it is the fact that he comes from, even though in the 2024 elections, a lot of people would argue that you definitely wouldn't see a World Bank because Ghana voted, for John Mahama, overwhelmingly voted for John Mahama.
Yes.
If you are President Mahama, you want to also ensure that you still, are popular in your base, because beyond election 2024, you're going to come back to the people, as in the NDC, not John Mahama, and with, Governor Kwame Agboja, who played a major role in the victory of the NDC in the Volta region. You want to reward him and show the people that, look, if you support your party, you're going to be rewarded adequately.
Okay.
Let me just say this to you. If you look at, President Mahama's appointments, you can see the reward for party work in there. Okay? Now, I mean, you looked at the regional ministers. You've looked at, for instance, I see the Western Regional Minister, who's currently the Regional Secretary of the NDC, Joseph Nelson. This is something that has become like a trend in our politics following what Nana Akufo-Addo did when he became president initially. But that notwithstanding, you'd see that these are persons who are coming in. They're not just people who've served in regional roles, but they also have the expertise. And most importantly, they have the educational qualification to perform these functions.
Winston, so far, any surprises with the nominees?
Well, not really. Everybody knew that, I knew that Eric Opoku was going to be made Food and Agric Minister. Eric Opoku has been, regional minister before. He's also been leading being spokesperson for the minority when it comes to food and agriculture. He's played a major role. He had explained the 24-hour economy very well at the time. So he's one person who's played a role when it comes to the food and agriculture sector as spokesperson. He's been the one who's championed the NDC's policies and programs from opposition. And so I'm not surprised that he's been put in there. I can understand, the surprise when it comes to Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare.
Right.
But I also look at, for instance, a position like local government, Ahmed Ibrahim. Initially, I thought someone else was penciled for it. But of course, these are things that would change until the final announcement has been made. You guys have talked about, Haruna Idrisu earlier being penciled for defense and all of that. These were rumors, and there would always be rumors until the president. I am not surprised he goes to education because of the changes within that particular sector. But this is it for me, really. The thinking was that Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, because, he had been a deputy education minister before, he was very close to the vice president's campaign team, was one of the persons who campaigned with the vice president. And President Mahama had said he was going to give the vice president some sectors to manage, including education, health, and the social protection sector. The understanding was that Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa will be the man to go there.
Right.
And now that he hasn't gone there, you're asking the question, has he become Ghana's next foreign affairs minister? Well, it looks like that. Let's get fingers crossed.
Okay, Winston Amwa is the deputy head of our political political desk here at Joy News.
Well, Ken, let me take you now to the northern region. We know that Haruna Idrisu is Member of Parliament for Tamale South, and there are already reactions to his nomination. We're looking forward to the vetting process, though, to see some of the solutions he would be offering to the key challenges facing the sector. But let me take you now to the northern region. My colleague Martina Bugri is on the ground. Martina, the reaction so far?
We've had some reactions, mixed reactions, and while others are applauding the president for the nomination, others think that he deserves more or a better place, they put it. Now, someone, for instance, said, considering the economic mess the immediate past government has taken the country through, he has served a better place as the finance minister than where he's being headed to. Another person who is an MPP member says that they saw the former defense minister, Dominic to bring a lot of employment to people from this area, and they believe that if Haruna had gone to defense, he would do the same for people of the north. And so there have been varied opinions on the appointment, but largely people are thankful that he's been appointed. They believe that he's going to do exactly what he did at the Labour Ministry, where he resolved a lot of issues. They believe that education currently has a lot of issues that when he steps in should be able to address.
Thank you, Martina.
Right, let's take you to the Bono East region now, where my colleague Anas Sabit is standing by. Anas, we know that Elizabeth Ejari, who hails from that region, has also been courting some reactions since her nomination. What have they been saying?
So the people here are super excited. Elizabeth Ejari is going to Parliament for the second time. During the erstwhile Mahama administration, she served as the Minister for Tourism. The expectations of the people here is that she might be, occupying that particular ministry. But to push her to the Trade and Industry Ministry is big for the people here, particularly her constituents, those in the Detima North district. Detima North, Chibodon precisely is a tomato producing area.
Right.
And over the years, they've been expecting at least a factory or an industry to serve that purpose. So her appointment means the people are expecting that at least now they'll be having a tomato factory in the area to help in the production of tomatoes.
Right, Anas Sabit is our resident correspondent in the Bono East region. It's now time for business, and George is here with the latest.
Well, Kenneth, we'll be getting you more on the challenges that lies ahead for the minister that will be responsible for trade, Agric Ministry. Be getting you more details on that one. And pushed by U.S. Senator for IMF funding for Ghana to be used to settle that old American companies might be difficult to realize. Be getting you more details on that one. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. Cintas Tanks and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, President John Mahama has announced third round of nominations targeting some key sectors of the economy. But what are the challenges that lie ahead for the Agric and Trade Ministries? In particular, there is more in the following Business Text report.
Let's first start with the Greek ministry that could have the Member of Parliament for Isunafu South in the Brongahafo region, Eric Opoku, as its new minister, if approved by Parliament. He is an expert in law and agriculture and has over 12 years' experience in Parliament. For some industry persons, one of his major tasks is how to ensure food security and deal with the high price of goods on the market. Despite the various programs that the previous government had implemented to improve the food security in Ghana, the country is still battling with food security issues as well as the high prices of foodstuff, which the Ghana Statistical Service is now blaming on high cost of carting these goods from farm gate to the market. Another issue that will be of very significant is how he ensures that farmers get good value for their produce, especially when it comes to the cocoa sector. Again, how can he build an effective barter stock system in the country? Let's move to the Trade, Agribusiness and Industry Ministry that could be led by by Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajare, the Member of Parliament for Techiman North constituency, that is if her appointment is approved by Parliament. For some, the Trade Ministry could be described as the heartbeat of the economy in terms of coming up with policies that will aid in the growth of the sector, especially when it comes to improving Ghana's export. One thing that will come up strongly on her table will be putting in place policies that should fast-track the recovery of the industry sector. Recent data from the Ghana Statistical Service showed that the sector is showing strong signs of recovery. Will she also press ahead with another policy that will target each region with an industry, or follow through with what the previous administration did when it comes to one district, one factory? How will she also deal with the challenge of protecting local industries? Versus because most local manufacturing firms think governments over the years have not done enough to protect their interests. How will she also work closely with the Finance Ministry and the Bank of Ghana to stabilize the Ghana cedi because of the impact of this on Ghana's export earnings as well as import costs? Well, the stakes are quite high and many will be looking forward to see how these new appointments can help in stabilizing the economy and bring about the needed economic transformation.
And that is a Business Desk report. So let's get more industry expectations on these key appointments. Let's first start with Edward Carroll, who is a major player in the agric sector. He has been reacting to the appointment of the agric minister.
His main focus should be to break down the agriculture sector and deal with it decisively, because the agriculture sector is so huge and so also diverse. It is not homogeneous. So he must do that. And then the next stage is for him to, whilst having that activity, he must consult the stakeholders there because of the diverse nature of it. Much as he has good understanding of the agriculture sector, it cannot be said that his ministry alone knowledge is sufficient to address the challenges that are there.
Recaro is a major player in the agric sector. Let's move to the Trade Ministry, or the Trade Minister designate, and let's hear from Jacob Ajiman. He is the spokesperson for the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders.
One of the challenges we expected to look at is the shipping line administrative cost or charge. So we as freight forwarders, we expect that immediately she must tackle the issue of shipping line local administrative charge. This is a charge that no liner shipping company should charge any importer importing commodities into Ghana, because the freight that any importer pays to the shipping company comprises of all the local charges over here. So when an importer pays the freight, all the importer needs to do is present his bill of lading or her bill of lading to the shipping line through his freight forwarder or her freight forwarder and take delivery of his goods.
Jacob Ajiman is spokesperson of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. Now, proposals by UNES Senator that the remaining IMF disbursement to Ghana should be tied to clearing debts owed some U.S. companies in Ghana could be difficult to realize. Now, that is what we are picking from some persons that negotiated Ghana's program with the fund. There is more in this report.
The U.S. Senator is also the ranking member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. In the letter to the U.S. Treasury Secretary, argued that pressure should be brought on the IMF to ensure these debts running into $251 million are paid. He also wants the fund to force Ghana to use the remaining disbursements to clear these debts. But Joy Business is learning that this might be difficult. This is because it was one of the reasons that the IMF predicted, for which reason they forced Ghana to restructure its debt and take steps to ensure that monies owed some of these commercial creditors are paid back on time. Again, under Ghana's program with the IMF, disbursements are tied meeting certain key targets, and the payment of these debts are not one of them. The IMF has also argued that it is also one of these challenges. That is why the fund is working hard for Ghana to improve revenue collections and stabilize the economy in order for Ghana to be in the position to pay all its debts. For now, some experts are arguing that this is no cause for alarm and Ghana's program with the IMF is not under threat.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, manager and IT advisor at KPMG, that is the accounting firm, Executive, is urging small businesses to adopt practical tech solutions to help in strengthening their cybersecurity solutions. He shared these insights on Joy Business Advisory Series, a 2-week program aimed at equipping SMEs with the financial and business development pointers for 2025.
One thing we look at and we take seriously is actually information security. There are several information security standards that you have to adhere to as a business, depending on which sector or which business you're operating. Like, let me take for a small business as an example, right? You have certain standards that you just have to comply with. Your data, where are you storing it? How secure is it? Who has access to it, right? What systems are you using? Are those systems secured? The mode of communication between that system and maybe third-party systems, are they secure? So there are very basic check boxes that you have to just check and ensure. And in most cases where you have these challenges, you realize that 1 or 2 of those controls are not complied.
Ezekiel Akpan is manager IT advisory at accounting and financial firm KPMG. You can catch us on tomorrow at 1 p.m. on the Joy News channel on the marketplace as we actually engage Joachim Owusu-Efrie. He's a senior manager tax and regulation or regulatory at accounting and finance firm Deloitte. Well, tonight on PM Express Business Edition, we engage the former chief executive of the defunct bank UT, that is Prince Kofi Amoabeng, on lessons learned after the collapse of his bank. Catch us at 9 p.m. and also on all our social media platforms. We dig in and get some answers. Going forward, he will also be seeking to ensure that he gets his license back, following the promise by this government to restore licenses of some of these banks that lost it over the years. Now let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you're a holder of MTN shares, it was up by some significant margin at 5 pesos and is now worth 2 Ghana cedis, 65 pesos. If you had invested on the Ghana Stock Exchange from the beginning of this year, earnings are now more than 3% for you. Quite interesting returns if you had invested on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And let's talk about sports. And my man, Bushba, is here.
Yeah, George. Well, the communications director of the Ghana Football Association, Harry Asante-Chum, has confirmed the association's plans to make changes to the Black Stars Technical Committee. Well, Joy Sports understand the FA is set to part ways with John Pinto and Joseph Lohman, with replacement lined up. Well, the move, we understand, is part of the association's plans to strengthen the backroom staff of the Black Stars team headed by Otto Addo ahead of the World Cup qualifier in March. Meanwhile, Black Stars forward Joseph Pinto, along with scoring goals for MLS side LA Galaxy, has been busy producing music. He's been speaking to Joyce was Daniel Krante on why he's turned attention to producing some great music.
Former Black Stars forward Asamoah Gyan is probably the standout name when it comes to Ghanaian athletes who have pursued a music career in their active playing years. But that phenomenon doesn't look like ending anytime soon. Gyan has retired, but the current crop of Black Stars players has its own music star.
I go by the name JP. It's all about love.
Joseph Pinto, music has always been his first love.
Yeah, I really loved music when I was really young. I always lead worship when I was young in church. I lead sometimes worship and praises sometimes, So it's something that I really love to. I love listening to worship songs and all this kind of stuff. So it's something that I always wanted to do, but it's not something that I want to do after my career. It's something I love to do.
With the pressure associated with professional football, how does Pinto juggle that with his music career?
I always do it in my off days. So sometimes I do it when we have some few days, like since I didn't come to the national team, that's when I started to record it. So it was 2 times and I wasn't present in the national team due to injury. So I used that kind of, space for me to fill out what was left. So It's something that I've been doing it really more because I really concentrate on football. But whenever we have some breaks, I sometimes love to do music.
Pinsel's music journey has seen him drop close to 10 songs, and records featuring Kweku Flick, Bisakede, and dancehall king Shatawale are in the pipeline. 2024 ended in a perfect possible way for Pinsel, winning the MLS Cup with LA Galaxy in his debut season, and he performed his latest song, Blessing, at the Victory Parade, with teammates and fans enthusiastically singing along.
Right, let's bring you some educational stories tonight as the food crisis on various campuses are escalating as emergency supplies dispatched by the government are yet to reach the affected institutions, and reports from various campuses reveal that students are struggling to find adequate meals, with some resorting to fending for themselves to cope with the dire situation. Let's get on the telephone lines and speak to the former Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Park, for more. Dr. Park, when we spoke to you on Monday, you did indicate that in the next 48 hours, the foods were going to reach the schools. Have they?
Well, let me say good evening to you and good evening to listeners. As a matter of fact, as I'm speaking to you, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, Dr. Park, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. As I speak to you now, I am just returning from Kema. I was there in the company of representatives from the Office of the Chief of Staff, from the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, the TFS Service, as well as Parliament, including myself. I can confirm that the trucks have started moving. The only reason why there was a slight delay was because we were waiting for the Ministry and the Ghana Education Service to give us the details with regard to the breakdown.
Okay.
The locations as well as the contact persons. Also had to put in place security arrangements and measures. And especially so now that we are witnessing instances where cargo trucks carrying goods become subject of attack. But in all of that, I can tell you that the process has begun.
Okay.
And we expect that by the end of next week, all schools should have received the quantities of rice they deserve. So we are prioritizing.
Dr. Park, let me come here. So when is the first school or the first batch of schools, when are they likely to receive the food? Tonight, tomorrow, when?
Well, this evening. So I can tell you that the Greater Accra schools, they will receive their rice of 300 bags at the depot in Presec. The schools that are further from Accra, the trucks will be loading and then will proceed accordingly. The conveying of the rice is likely being done with the support of the Ghana Armed Forces. So the military trucks are conveying them as well as the police trucks.
Right. Okay. This appears to be a short-term measure. What's the long term?
Well, we expect that in the medium to long term, the processes that have been initiated by the Chief of Staff with the Ministry of Finance and Education, the requisite resources will be made available probably within a week for the headmasters to be able to procure all the food needs on their own, as promised by John Normani Mahama.
All right, Dr. Clement Park there, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening. He has indicated that the first batch of schools are going to be receiving the foods tonight. Let's bring you more stories tonight. And have you nominated that extraordinary person in your community, Faustina, who is making remarkable contributions and inspiring others to follow suit yet?
Well, the Joy News Impact Makers Award is the perfect platform to amplify the voice of your community change maker as they make significant strides in diverse categories. Well, here's a report on why you must nominate that person now.
The
CEO and founder of Haven of Love Children's Foundation, and the Joy Impact Makers Award winner for Health and Social Welfare 2024. I've been on major radio stations and TV stations, and I've been recognized all over the country as a hero, and people want to support and hear from me. Because of the award, Lamisi Music Foundation also partnered with me, and we gave about 500 pads, sanitary pads, to girls in rural communities who cannot afford it.
Well, that's how we wrap up the bulletin. And to nominate your heroes, you can send an email to impact.makersawards@myjoyonline.com.
Right.
Fill the form and tell us more about them. Entries are open from now until February 10, 2025. And
I'm going to do that right away because I have somebody that I need to nominate.
Nominate me, please.
Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. My name is Kenneth Jesse.
I'm Faustina Safo. Good evening.